Work great. Hi, everybody. Okay, we have our masks on because Bill Leuenberger and I are sitting in the same room, but and I'm going to do the introductions and get you all started. And then when I turn it over to Bill, he's going to take his mask off, but I'll still have my mask on 6 feet away. All right, so we're doing this. We're making sure we're socially distanced and doing it the right way. Aren't you lucky that you're at home and you don't have to have your mask on? Don't you love this webinar thing? And Bill Leuenberger was the founder of the Chalet Lawn Care Department, and he renamed it the Soil and Turf Department. And we calculated that we did our first fall lawn care lecture together 27 years ago. Isn't that amazing? So it's sort of like getting the band back together to do this current fall lawn care lecture. And I wish I could see a show of hands. Oh, guess what, everybody? We have a chat box and we have a question and answer area. And I'm gonna open those up right now. So I have the Q&A. I'm gonna scoot it over so it doesn't block the screen. And then we also have the chat box. Where is the chat box today? Okay, more. Chat box. So there's the chat box. So if you want to, add any information and ask a question, we've got those two boxes up. And but what we'd like to do is plan on giving the presentation, and then we'll answer all your questions and your chats at the end. Now, if it's something that's just really current to what either Bill or I'm going to be talking about, we'll answer them right on the spot, okay? And I'm seeing 14, 15, the number's ticking up. Hi, everybody. I have my face mask on because I have Bill Leuenberger here in the room with me. And Bill is retired now, lucky guy, but he's working with our Chalet Soil and Turf Department, which he created years and years ago. He founded the lawn care division for Chalet Landscape. How many years ago was that, Bill? See, here's the famous guy I'm talking about right here, okay?
That was way back in 1992 is when I started. They had a lawn care department. I just made it better.
Yeah, he really did. This guy, here we go, 6 minutes. This guy he's famous throughout the United States because of founding 3 different professional lawn care groups. He did a lot of the, oh my God, I forgot the term. When you go to Washington, D.C., lobbying, he was one of the star lobbyers for our industry in Washington, D.C., all during his career here at Chalet. So this is the person that everybody in our company too goes to, if there's any questions about lawn and turf. Lawn and turf, that's those same, the kind of an equal term. You can use either one. So you'll hear lawn and turf a lot. We have 16 people, and I'm looking at where's the clock on this computer? There's not a clock on this computer. It's not mine. Well, we have 3 minutes. No, it's 10 o'clock. It's after 10. Let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is I'll do the introduction. Let's just be official. Welcome, everybody, to the Chalet Fall Lawn Care presentation. I'm leaving my mask on right now because I'm sitting next to Bill Leuenberger to get everything started. And then when I turn the show over to him, I'm gonna move away. He'll take his mask off, and then I'm gonna keep my mask on though during the whole time. So we're doing the right social distancing here at Chalet. So let's go ahead and get started. And the computer takes a while to get that first screen to go. Okay, here we go. Don't you love it? This is like when I had a teenage son. Come on, let's get moving. Oh, I know, it has to be on here. There we go. Okay, so this is our outline, and what we're going to be discussing today is what led up to today's lawns conditions, and they look pathetic out there. Mother Nature has just been horrendous this season. What we really need is we need rain, we need rain, we need rain, and we need cooler temperatures. Now, the basics that we're going to be going over today on what you can do to make your lawns better. And we talk about the weed, feed, and seed months. That's August and September. We're going to go over all these details for you. We're going to talk about possible problems you may be seeing, coming up. Like there's going to be a late hatch of grubs because of the drought and the heat. And then the animals that will be digging up the lawn looking for them. And then we also are going to discuss chemical controls and earth-friendly natural options. And these are excuse me, these are ones that are newly available. Okay, excuse me for sneezing. Good night. Pardon me. So the goals of this presentation, we're going to give you an outline, a plan of action to take care of your lawn and rejuvenate it, provide effective chemical and biological controls, whichever you prefer. We're going to explain the whys. If you understand why, you'll understand how and when to do it and why that's important. And the main goal is for you to have a green, thick, weed-free lawn come October. Okay, the season summary. Our soils thawed really early this season. They thawed in March, the third week in March. So we had about 10 weeks of really wonderful soil temperatures for roots to grow. So our spring lawns were looking fabulous. But unfortunately, we had that record rainfall in May, that third weekend in May. And it made it the wettest May in history recorded at O'Hare. But it was really only one weekend. But in low areas, there was standing water, and the plants were able to take 2 steps forward this spring and then 1 step backward because of the wet May. And then unfortunately, we hit warm temperatures as early. We were 94 degrees on the 2nd of June. It was obscene, and it's just been like that all summer. Now, the problem with having rain 4 days in a row is it pushes all the oxygen out of the soil and out of the root zone. And so then it hampers root growth. It actually causes the roots to die back. And then the other awful thing for this season is the obscenely hot, 15 degrees above normal and dry. From July 1st to August the 15th, we'd only had 3 inches of rain. We should have had 6 3/4 inches. And then all the lawn diseases called patch diseases showed up. Now, I think I've talked enough about introductions, so I'm going to turn the show over to Bill. We've talked about the wettest May. And so I'm going to turn it over to him. Oh, what a horrible thing to do, Bill. Give you the screen when we're talking about dollar spot. Oh, my God. Okay, and here's Bill right here. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Jennifer, and welcome, everyone. Before we get into dollar spot, I just wanted to add the fact that a lot of times when you get a lot of moisture and your soils become saturated, what ends up happening also are the root systems that are alive. They tend to stay near the top. They stay a little closer to the surface because they don't have to drive themselves down for moisture because it's right there, and they're searching for oxygen because a lot of times the water replaces the air. So that's what creates the root systems as being higher. And then when you get all the heat, all of a sudden the heat dries out, your root systems are mainly active near the top. So that creates an issue also. Dollar spot has been, we've seen a lot of it this year. We've seen it come in actually twice this year. It is an issue. It's not as bad an issue as a soil-borne disease. This is one that's more of it goes after the leaf and works primarily near the surface of the where the turf surface would be. So you're getting a leaf blade issue. And with that, you generally have to either using, when you see it, the problem is already, you might say, almost too late. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that you put something down for this come next spring earlier, say somewhere, I think May 5th is something that you'd want to be looking at. The infection showed up in approximately in the old spots, and this is the same thing with which we don't have on here is red thread, but they're very close in the way they react. Basically, what you're doing with dollar spot is once you've seen it, you try and grow it out. You want to use a little bit of nitrogen to try and get it to grow out. This year is difficult because of the heat. Too much nitrogen can actually burn out your lawn. So you got to, you got to make sure that you do put some nitrogen down. However, let's go on here. Of course, the National Weather Service, as you can see, there were a number of days over 90. August, we had 8, actually 9, right?
Yeah.
We actually had 9.
Yeah, I should have changed this to 30 as of today.
Right.
Because adding yesterday, 30 days.
Yeah,
over
that's amazing.
90 and over 95. Over
Yeah.
90. Outrageous.
Yeah, and you look at the day, June, we had 1 even in May. So, I mean, the heat is unbelievable. And so even those that have done everything that they felt was right for their lawns can see the possibility of, in this case, it goes beyond just dormancy. It is lawn stress. And sometimes there's going to be areas that won't come back because of it. This is drought damage. And you can see it's just pretty much over the whole lawn. The only thing that's green there are weeds. And of course, those are the one things you don't want. But drought damage is created if you absolutely do it, no watering. This is on a berm. Berms get it even worse than just your level turf. This is chinch bug damage. And you can see it's a little more spotty, but it's not necessarily in round circles like it would be with a disease. So chinch bug, you can see sometimes you can actually kind of kick up those brown areas, and you'll end up seeing chinch bug under, especially if you're looking for the insect itself. You want to look right where the green meets the brown, and you look there, and generally you can find chinch bug damage. This gives you a better idea between chinch bug and, of course, the drought damage.
It kind of tracks too, doesn't
Right.
it? You can see how when the insects move along, they kind of make tracks, different than drought. Drought tends to be over the whole surface.
Yeah, they're not quick movers, chinch bugs are. And they come up in drought. They like dry soils. They basically will live well in dry soils, but they'll come up if you have heavier thatch. They will live in the thatch because if there is a rain or whatever, any sort of moisture, there is a fungus in the soil that will kill the chinch bug. So it actually knows to move into the thatch area where that fungus is not active. There's more chinch bug damage.
Yeah, I put too many pictures of chinch bug in there, so keep going through.
But it is, and this is a way to check for not only chinch bug, but if you have sod webworm, which sod webworm we don't do much about because it's not as damaging. But you get a coffee can, you cut out the bottom of it, you push it into the soil, and you fill it with water, sometimes a little bit of soapy water, and it irritates them and it brings them right to the top. And so that's another way of checking for chinch bug. And this is the chinch bug itself. When you're looking down, it looks like little black things, and in a way they're kind of shiny. I mean, you can actually see them moving around, and they look like little shiny things. They're pretty small.
And that's the adult, and it's
Right.
the larva that does the most damage. And then I like this photo because you can see how when they feed, they have poison in their saliva, and it makes the grass blade turn yellow.
Yeah. Yep, there's yellow leaves. You can see that like on the edge of the green to the brown. And that's the place to check for them because they're actively moving to wherever there's green blades. They're done with the other areas. Dilox is the product that we would be recommending. Works within 24 hours. The best way to do it is after you put Dilox down, you water, but you don't water heavily. You water very lightly. All you want to do is activate the chemical so that it's actually killing the chinch bug. And again, this also, it's called Grub Control because it does work on grubs.
But one thing that's really important is that it only lasts 3 to 5 days.
Right.
So people need to be aware of that.
Right. It's a quick kill, but it's not a long-lasting kill. So that's the thing you got to always consider. You may have to make a secondary application at some point. And there also is GrubX, and this is a product that probably will, it'll do some good. I stick with the Dilox, but this product will work. So
if people have used this on their lawns earlier in the season for grub control, it would have protected it from the
it may, right, it may,
yeah. But right now, since it takes 14 days for the active ingredient in GrubX to be absorbed by the grass plants, it wouldn't be effective if you realize that you have chinch bugs right now. So that's why we always recommend the Dilox.
And with all the heat we've had, some of the grass plants have kind of shut down, and so that sort of creates a problem too. It's not, the chemical is not as active in it, so that creates somewhat of a problem. Grub Control. If you put down your Grub Control in April, May, actually May or June are probably some of the best times to put it down. Chances are you should be covered. Grubs this year, we believe, are going to come out much later than they have in past years. It seems like with all the heat and everything that it's taken its time.
This is the annual white grub. And I didn't see any gin beetles this season at all.
I haven't either.
I think it was too wet when they were emerging up to the surface, and I think they all drowned. But then the next one is the Japanese beetle.
And the Japanese beetle, I've actually saw this year a couple of them, but they were real small.
Yeah.
I've never seen the adults that small. So, but they can still be effective in eating. They're still hungry. And
Bill and I were talking about whether his crews up in North Chicago had seen any grub damage yet, and I haven't had any come to the plant information. But you were saying you just saw some just this week.
This past week they saw a little bit, so it's
late.
Right, it's a week or so, a week to 10 days late.
Yeah, keep your eyes open, everybody.
Yeah.
Because what will give it away is not so much the grub damage, but the next picture I think is the wildlife. And this is what happens when wildlife are looking for the grubs.
Yeah, the digging. They dig, they search. If they ever felt they ever had a dinner there before, even if you don't have grubs, sometimes you'll get some digging. So it's not always a matter of you having them. It's a matter of have you had them. So you may end up seeing some digging and you look and you don't see any grubs. It's because they remember where they got a free meal there. Then, of course, there's a skunk.
That's in my yard, and that was from last year. The skunk in Jennifer's yard. So they're out there. They're out there.
They don't care whose yard it is. They're hungry little creatures, and they're going to look around, that's for sure. And, of course, raccoons will also, especially if you live in areas that are a little further out, you'll find a lot of raccoons. So looks like this guy's looking down at the skunks. He might get a snootful.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And then these are the repellents.
There's repellents, and these repellents work pretty good. I've used some of them myself for the skunks, and they seem to work real well. And again, you can purchase this through our store. Our website, right?
Both. You can go to the Chalet website, and you can also come into the store to get these. And Repelzol is from Bonide. Plant Skeed is a blood-based product. It's bovine and porcine blood that has been sterilized, and it's one of the most effective. And you can use it as a liquid spray or the granular, and it lasts for 60 days when you do an application, and it's really effective. It smells terrible, but it's really effective. You spray it as the last thing you do in the garden in the evening, and then when you come back 24 hours later, you don't smell it, but the animals smell it for 60 days. And then there's one more, I think. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's their cause. But yeah, this was a quote from Ron Townsend. He was the former Chicago District Golf Course Association manager. And so this is leading into core aeration.
Right. Core aerification is probably the second most important thing that you can do mechanically to your lawn. First one, obviously, is mowing the lawn. But core aerification is, in my opinion, very vital, especially to lawns that maybe have been sodded in the past. And you'll find that you have the heavier the thatch area, the more you really need a core aerification. You need to take those plugs out. The plugs that go on the soil itself are vital. Basically, what that ends up doing is that when that breaks down, it goes down in through those holes or the plugs, and it actually creates like a different soil from one. You could have 15 feet apart and you have two different soils. You want to try and get soil into the thatch area, and of course it allows water and all the water and your nutrients to get down into the soil, and that's vital. That's really important. It's you're always trying to drive your turf, and again, I suggest really looking at the sunny areas mainly for your aeration, because you're trying to get below a thatch area, and in shade you don't see as much thatch, and because the fescues and shade are very shallow rooted, you got to watch that you're not pulling them up. So it's really the sun areas that you're really concerned about, making sure that you really have a really good core aerification. You can see here, the compacted soil and how the root systems are staying pretty close to the surface. You do the aeration, that like excites those root systems, and it gets them to spread out. When they do spread out, they're spreading in even to the lower place where there's still oxygen coming down. So they really go down fairly deep, and it gives you a much sturdier, stronger stand of grass, better rooting. And that's a picture of how plugs can look. That's on a bent grass lawn, but it at least gives you an idea of the plugs. And like I say, you want to leave them on the top. You want them to break down on the top so that they're breaking down into those areas of thatch. So the soil and thatch is very important.
Are people still using drag mats
No,
anymore?
no. We stopped using the drag mat. It moved the plug around, which wasn't a bad thing, but it seemed to actually tear at the soil, or at the turf. So that's why we stopped. Going into fall, there's weed, feed, weed, and seed. These are the months. These are the primary months when you want to be doing this. When you feed, you're fertilizing the lawn with nutrients. Obviously, the actual plant food is the sun on it, but then you want to give it nutrients. It's almost like giving it all sorts of vitamins that are vital to its health. You want to make sure you kill the weeds, because the weeds really compete with taking up the nutrients, taking up moisture, and they tend to outgrow grass. So you want to try and get rid of your weeds if at all possible. And of course, that's by spraying at this particular point. Some people try and dig them out. I always suggest, if you want to get all your weeds, you want to chemically go after it. And you want to apply seed this time of the year. Labor Day is an ideal time to be putting down seed. Basically, our nights are getting shorter. Longer. We're getting longer nights and shorter days. They're going to become cooler. It's just an ideal time for all of this. The weeds, all your weeds are up. You're controlling it, and your grass is really in full mode to grow, and that's why you want to be feeding it. some cultural practices, you know, cool season grasses, you know, the soil less than 70 degrees, it's happy at that point. So that's why generally you're seeing your lawns in spring, cool seasons in spring and in fall, as far as their most active growth. They tend to go dormant, or in this year, the case of this year, of course, with the with all the heat, dryness, but the best time to fertilize is now. Warm season grasses, and again, we have zoysia grass. People have zoysia grass that grows up here. They like hotter soil temperatures. And of course, some of the weeds like crabgrass loves it. That's a warm season. So you definitely need to do some supplemental watering, especially when you have some of the either one of the grasses. Our cool season turf grass, as you can see, it's the Mason-Dixon line, and for some reason it holds true with turf grass. We generally don't have southern type grasses that grow very well here. Almost all our turf is what would grow well in northern grasses. We'll get into it. Here's some of them that we have. We have the Kentucky bluegrass. That's the primary grass that everybody wants to grow. Shaded lawns, you'd want to go primarily with fine fescue, but and of course perennial ryegrass helps hold things together. As far as the grass blades themselves, they help protect against diseases by having a different species in there. So, and that's why generally you're going with a mix. We almost always recommend a mix over a blend. Mix is a mix of these different types. A blend is one type, like Kentucky bluegrass might have a blend of 5 different Kentucky bluegrasses. But that is what we grow in the Chicagoland area. The effects of dry on cool season turf, you know, again, it prefers air temps at between 60 and 75. Average soil temps at 2-inch depth at above 75. And at temps 75, roots slow, resulting in turfgrass stress, called root dysfunction. That's declining dieback, causing turfgrass stress. The low rainfall resulted in dry creeping bent grass. So a lot of times you saw those, you'll see brown areas of, and in many cases it is bent grass. And of course we use rotary mowers, and so that even pulls up that bent grass. So you end up seeing the bottom part of the bent grass. It was not even managed by supplemental water this year. Bent grass especially, because they have real surface roots. But just about all our turf grass really had a rough time this year, even trying to water. If you were able to keep your lawn in great shape, you know, that's a plus. That's for sure. You were lucky. This is our calendar. Oop, what happened here?
I can help fix that.
Okay.
Hold on just a minute.
Yeah, let me.
It's all
I'm
right.
sorry.
Don't worry. No, we're going to skip that. And we're just going to go back to this. Sorry, everybody, for these technical difficulties. We're going to go to the slideshow. Don't do the whirly thing. Here we go. We're going to play from this slide. No, stop it. Skip. Skip. And this is her computer wants to download a new program. Don't you hate that? There we are.
Okay.
All right.
So this is something that is, it's a calendar that we do every year, and we just want to make sure that you kind of follow this. You know, again, every year is different. In some years, you're going to have maybe a little adjustment that something might happen in May that would have happened in April the year before. You know, it really depends on when you're coming out of a winter. But going during the season, most of this is pretty well followed and is right on. So
I have to brag about Bill. Bill's the one that suggested that we put this calendar together. And I think it was I hate to say 20 years ago, but
Oh, I think it was.
Drought. Now,
Yeah.
now you know how old both of us are.
Yeah.
He started when he was 10, and I was 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he came up with this idea, I said, "Oh, this is wonderful." So we put this together, and we've been updating it based on the updated, fertilizers and and herbicides and pesticides. But it's still it's a great tool, and people love getting that. And I was going to have that sent to you all with the other handout, and I don't think that happened. So any of you who have signed up for this, we're going to send this. I'll have Carly send this to you after the lecture is over. So, and we also have it in the store if you want to pick up a copy when you're in the store.
Yeah, it really does help. I think it's something
does.
that's that you can follow, and it gives you a really good idea of what you need to be doing.
I'm seeing some questions. Let me just pull this question up, and we'll take a minute to look at these, everybody, just to see if there's hold on. And okay. Oh, you're just saying thank you for getting the calendar, and you're asking about the calendar. That would be it. Oh, cool. Okay, we're gonna keep moving, everybody. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you for your comments.
Oh, oops. Let's go back.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So turfgrass diseases, leaf spot and melting out. We saw a little bit of that this year. I mean, we did see some, and that was spring to probably closer to June, the beginning of June, in May. Brown patch on tall fescue and perennial ryegrass, any sort of lush turf at all varieties. Especially if they're wet from over irrigating. Always remember with irrigation, we're going to get into it, but I want to say this: you can always add water, you can never take it away. So you always have to remember that. Pythium blight is another one that I haven't seen any of it this year, but that is something.
It's too hot.
Right. That is something that when you do get that, you can almost watch the mycelium crawl across the lawn. It's like unbelievable, but it's mainly in golf courses. The dollar spot, that's been huge this year. We've had a lot of dollar spot. And again, that's something that if you've had those little round dollar spots, and we'll show you pictures on it, you want to be looking at next year putting what is it?
A preventative
fungicide. Yeah, fungicide. Immunox. You'd want to be putting Immunox down approximately May 5th. I would be looking at about May 5th as a date. Rust is not such a big problem. It does hit bluegrass, but I've seen it a lot on perennial ryegrass. And of course, the patch diseases are another thing. I generally suggest through our lawn care, we generally try and go with organic fertilizers more so, and try and let the microbes do a lot of work on that, because it seems like the fungicides not only can kill that fungus, but it also kills some of the good fungus. So your first approach might be trying to go at it with organic fertilizer. Here's the patch disease. As you can see, they're brown, but a lot of them, this one not so much, has the frog eye or the green in the middle of it, but you can see some that in here that does. This is dollar spot, and of course the Rhizoctonia blight. Dollar spot is the one you're going to see, and if you look at the grass blade itself, you can see it almost has an hourglass look, especially on that blade all the way to your right, that has almost like a hourglass appearance, and that's how you know that it's dollar spot. But you also will see the round spots. This picture probably doesn't show it as well, but they can be perfectly round. Especially in a real green lawn, they'll be almost like a silver dollar. Again, this is your patch disease, and you see how it's dead around, and it has the green in the middle, and they call that frog eye. And this is there are fungicides you can use for this, and I would be going after it with an organic fertilizer to begin with. So.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, yeah. So managing turf diseases, you need to prepare the site and soil, sodding, or seed. Avoid low mowing. You want to cut tall. Whether you're in shade or sun, it is always best to cut tall. You want as much grass blade as you can. That's going to take, photosynthesize, and that's going to help drive your root systems down and make for healthier root systems. And you want to try and reduce excessive thatch buildup. And again, I'm thinking we're probably looking more at using more organic fertilizers, because that does help against your thatch. Core aeration helps a lot. It helps with the compaction, and it helps to drive the root systems down. It opens it up, as we showed before. If you are using a synthetic fertilizer, make sure it's a slow release nitrogen. You don't want it breaking down quickly if it sits in the thatch area, so that your root systems start coming back up to get it into the thatch area. Repair damaged areas with disease-resistant Kentucky blue and perennial rye. We get into seed in a little bit, but
we can talk about our great custom seeds.
Right, but fungicides help, should be applied preventatively in spring before the fungus invades plants. So you need to actually keep a record of what you might have, so that next year you can go after it. Unlike an insect where you put an insecticide down and you kill it, fungus works, and then by the time you see it, it's already too late. So you want to make sure you get that fungicide down early. And almost every fungus that that we seem to have here, it's somewhere the soil temperatures between 50 and 60 degrees. And we find that the first week in May is about when we normally see that, correct?
Yeah. So,
and systemic fungicides. Immunox is a great fungicide. So is Infuse. Scott's I'm not as familiar with.
Scott's is the granular, and that's the old one, the thiophanate methyl. But it's easy to apply as a granular. All of these last 14 days, so you have to reapply every 2 weeks for usually 3 applications. And then the next picture shows the spray hose and spray bottles. Those are the easiest to use.
These are ideal for. I mean, you hook up your hose and it's going to bring it up at the correct amount that needs to be applied. This is probably your best way of going. And plus, especially if you're going after the leaf, like dollar spot, a lot of that mycelium is right at the soil level. Using the spray, you get it right into the soil level.
And what I love about these is you spray it on the leaves, and it's absorbed in, and it stays in for 14 days, even if it rains. And so the only problem is, when you're mowing the lawn, you're cutting those blades off. But if you spray it deeply enough, it goes down in the crown. And so as the new blades are being pushed up, they're already treated. So it's a really great preventative.
There's 4 steps in September to a really good lawn. Again, number 1, it's getting cooler. So that's going to help that in itself. You definitely want to fertilize an organic based or synthetic. At this particular time, or actually with turf in general, it doesn't know the difference as far as the nitrogen. It doesn't know the difference between organic or synthetic. It's your soils that make the difference by using organic based fertilizer. But if you use a synthetic, the grass itself will not know the difference. You want to eliminate the weeds. Evaluate the percentage of weeds you have and use either the spot spray or a broadcast weed and feed. If you're using a weed and feed, it is best to make sure that the lawn is damp before you do it, and don't apply it with bare feet. And core aerate to cultivate soil and remedy conditions causing thatch. That really does help. From year to year, you should always be core aerating your lawn. Seeding is ideal. However, if you have a really thick lawn and you're core aerating, it doesn't always it's not something that you actually have to throw other seed. If you're seeing a lot of disease, you may want to put some different seed in there to try and combat some of the diseases. You know, that you use different varieties. But when you do overseed, it's got to be with improved grass seed. You have to really look at the seed, so that's important. This is a organic fertilizer that we highly recommend here. Espoma is always been a really good fertilizer, and some of these are juice. This one might be a little bit juiced, I believe. Yeah,
it is juice. It's got a 15% nitrogen. So for an organic base, that's a high number. So it's juice. It's got extra nitrogen.
right.
So
But it's a low number of juice. It's a low number of what the actual nitrogen is. So it's enough where the grass can actually take it up, and you still have the organics to go into the soil. Here we have Nature Safe. That's the one I've always recommended. Here we're primarily selling the 835. There's an older picture. I don't think they even make 7114 anymore.
I should have updated that.
But that 835 is excellent, especially if you have patch diseases in your lawn, like summer patch. You want to use something like this. You can use it like once a month, and it'll really do great. You do want to make sure you get it watered in, but it's not vital that you get it watered in. So the best time to actually fertilize is within the first couple of weeks in September.
This is fertilizer.
Yeah, this is just about the fertilizers, you know, what your nutrients are. Phosphorus, if you see phosphorus in a bag of fertilizer, 9 times out of 10, it's an organic phosphorus, and it can't be eliminated from the fertilizer. It's not added. The micronutrients are also really important, and of course, soil pH regulates the amount of available nutrients. And calcium magnesium ratio is another thing that we look for. Again, synthetic or organic. Synthetic forms, you always want to use the slow release type nitrogens. The bag itself is usually higher in N, but it's how you put it down. If you're putting down 1 pound per 1,000 of nitrogen, it doesn't matter if the bag is higher or not, it's still going down. It just means it'll go further. The organic forms, of course, it takes the soil to break that down. That's how it releases. So microbial.
And if people are, don't be nervous about, how much to spread. All of the manufacturers put, the settings for your spreader, and they've calculated how much nitrogen is being applied per 1,000 square feet, and they do all the work for you. You just follow the instructions, and they do it automatically. So it makes it, all these measuring pound per square foot can get confusing, but don't worry, it's all calculated for you by the manufacturers.
This has been a really good winterizer to Milorganite. And again, you see 620, it has 2% phosphorus, and I know phosphorus in lawns is supposed to be, it's virtually banned, but it's banned in Illinois only according to not adding phosphorus to it. So it's not to worry about it. It's a natural phosphorus in this product. And the Nature Safe 835, again, is very excellent. I like to have the potash at the end of the year. It helps build the cell walls for going over for the winter hardiness. Again, killing weeds. This particular weed is something that that everybody is troubled with. This is ground ivy or creeping Charlie. And there's a couple of drawbacks to this particular weed. Number one, it finds its way in the planting bed, so you got to try and get it out of your planting beds. When every single section becomes almost a new plant in the ground as it sends root systems down at every node. It's something that in spring, if you spray early, you can possibly control during the season. It's hard to kill when it's really growing during the season, but come fall, late fall, you want to try and spray this when after they say a first freeze. That's what University of Wisconsin found, first freeze, because the plant is trying to take nutrients back in, and while it's taking the nutrients, guess what? It's taking the chemical you put on there also.
And I'll confess, this is my yard, everybody. I didn't get my weed killer down because of the wet May, and so I missed that opportunity to kill the weeds. So I always kill my weeds, you know, in September. And this is growing up next to my vegetable garden of all places. So even I have terrible weeds. This is my backyard. My front yard's in pretty good shape, but my backyard's terrible. So I'll never let you go to my backyard.
Yeah. Luckily, the neighbors can't see it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And this crabgrass, and at this particular point, it doesn't hurt to spray it, but I've seen it seeding at this, and it's an annual. So the chances of actually controlling it at this point, unless you just don't like the look of it, you know, spray it. Otherwise, I would suggest not. You really don't have to. It'll die. The plant will die off. You put your weed preventer down next spring, and you shouldn't have an issue with it. This is gives you an idea of crabgrass. If you look on this on the right middle picture, you can see the seed heads, and they're finger-like. It looks like a real skinny hand with skinny fingers sticking out. But that's how you can tell your crabgrass. And once you get to that point, it's already pretty much so seeded.
The next series of photos is like the Rocky Horror Picture Show of weeds in your lawn. So buckle your seatbelt, everybody.
Yeah, chickweed. Chickweed's it's not necessarily the easiest one to control. It's a common weed, but it really finds its way to into your yard, and it's pretty well hidden sometimes. You can't see it.
I swear that every seed germinated this year because it was so wet in May.
Yeah.
But every one of them germinated. They're everywhere.
Dandelions, every single year we see dandelions. Everything you're doing is a control. We never eradicate. You can't totally get rid of anything. So you always have to consider the fact, we've had customers in the lawn care department that have said, oh, well, my lawn looks great. I have no more weeds. I'm canceling the service. Well, in a year and a half, they're back. Why did I get all those weeds? You got rid of them. We don't eradicate. Nobody eradicates. Anybody that says they'll get rid of your weeds and you'll never see them again, that they're selling you something that's not true.
The seeds can stay dormant in the soil from 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I've heard up to 40 years.
Oh, my.
I've heard up to 40 years. And as you turn your soil, some of that seed comes to the top and germinate. It just depends on the level. So this is purslane. This has like a little milky, when you cut into it, milky. It's a fleshy leaf on it. Again, you can pull this, but my suggestion always is to spray it so you're sure you get it.
And this is usually in hot, dry areas.
Right. Open areas sometimes. You'll see it in lawn. Well, this year you see it in lawns because lawns are hot and dry. So, and spurge, there's spurge and spotted spurge. The spotted spurge has a little dot on the leaf, and there's common spurge. And this one that you're looking at for the most part is common spurge.
Again, hot, dry areas.
Right. Ground ivy. Everybody knows about ground ivy, and it's something that's very difficult to control. Speedwell. Speedwell we see, it's not as drastic, but we have seen speedwell. And nutsedge. This is not a grass, and it's not a broadleaf weed. It's a sedge. And there are controls for it. I think we're going to come to some of the pictures of everything. Violets you really want to get in spring early. You want to get them almost right before they're blooming or right about when they're blooming, because it's got a little woody corm in the bottom and it's very tender in early spring. So those are the ones you want to go after early. Clover, white clover, that's something when it starts blooming, you got to be careful on what you're spraying. You would just, if you start seeing bees, well, make sure you don't go out in bare feet. But You want to try and get it before that. You want to put a little something in with your weed control to try and make it stick and get past it. They got little hairs on them. And so something, a soapy or what, you have turbo.
It's a better sticker agent.
Yeah, and that really works good because that also spreads out the droplet on it, so it goes over the entire blade.
And some of these products, go ahead to the products.
Yeah.
The concentrates don't. There's the Weed Beater Ultra is the early season one that you use. It works in cooler temperatures. And the chickweed, clover, and oxalis is the one you want to use now. And it works for all of the difficult common weeds and the common weeds. It's labeled for 200 weeds. And then the ready-to-use spray bottle has a spreader sticker in it.
That these, yeah.
And then if you want to be more earth-friendly natural, this is an iron-based. That was an iron-based one.
Oh, that was the iron-based. Okay.
This is the iron-based one, and you spray it on the surface of the weeds, and then it causes an iron toxicity, and the weeds turn black and die. Now, it doesn't kill the roots like the other chemical ones, but this is an earth-friendly natural. And whenever you're working with Bonide products, and you see that tan-colored edge on the label, see on the upper right-hand corner, that means it's an earth-friendly natural. So, you know, we talked about we would give you the earth-friendly, controls as well as the synthetic controls. And then the next one is...
Well, this one you have to keep in mind that you may have to spray it several times.
Yes.
But the good thing about that is that eventually the plant can give up. I mean, if you keep knocking it down, eventually the plant may give up. So
it's like every 6 to 8 weeks, you'll probably need to respray it because that's when it'll send new leaves up from the stored energy in the roots.
Right, and if you can't continue to store energy by photosynthesizing, eventually the plant will become very weak. So next is Tenacity. It is a bent grass control. The way it works, it takes the chlorophyll right out of the plant, so it turns it white. It works really good, and if you're on a Tenacity program, you'll know if it's working because your grass areas of your lawn will turn white. If you have someone doing like we do the program through our lawn care, if you see your regular grass turning a little white, they call that dinging it up. It doesn't mean that your grass has died. The bent grass will die, but your regular grass doesn't. Or even if you use a granular one and by chance you see a little whitening on your grass, not to worry. That's not going to be a problem.
And Bill, this is a good time to talk about, if anyone watching is getting overwhelmed about everything you need to do for your lawn and you just think, I can't do it, give Chalet a call or go to our website and then you'll ask, we'll have someone come out to give you a bid on doing the lawn maintenance for you. And would you explain the maintenance?
Well, our maintenance, within the maintenance, we have maintenance, which is mowing and general taking care of the property. We also have our soil and turf department. That takes care of the lawn, the weeds, the insects, the disease. We handle the aerations and slit seeding when that's found. We do the Tenacity for bent grass. We control bent grass. We have a semi-program on going after ranunculus facaria. I don't know how many people have ranunculus in their property, but we have a program that goes after that. All of these have to be under lawn care. You need to be a lawn care participant or customer. Basically, we also have the what would be the tree and shrub. They call it the ornamental, where we also spray for the ornamental trees and shrubs. We have a mosquito. We do come out and we use probably the best products you can get for mosquito control. And some people that I've talked to, I'm not in charge of that, but some people I spoke to have said that it works phenomenally. So if you're not liking mosquitoes, that might be something you might consider. So, oops, I went too far. This particular product, this has that tenacity or mesotrione in it. And the good thing about this particular one, and the way it says for seeding, is because if you put this down and you're doing, say, a new lawn especially, you put this down and it works great. It allows your grass seed to germinate, but it prevents weeds. I mean, it's really an ideal product. It's very good.
I love it. I use
Yeah.
it on my lawn. It kills the creeping bent grass that's there, makes it turn white. It also kills nutsedge, and then it also prevents it from germinating. So I just put this down on my own lawn a week ago, and I've been having so much fun taking pictures of all the white weeds and the dead nutsedge. So this really works well. I use it now on Labor Day, and then I'm going to use it again for my April 15th application next spring as the preventative to prevent crabgrass and to prevent any other weed seeds from germinating. So
and it'll kill broadleaf weeds. It has it on the label that it actually goes after and kills, like dandelions and whatever. Turns them white, but at least it's working.
It's so fun.
Yeah. Some of the grassy weeds we want to go through. You've got your rough bluegrass and annual bluegrass. We saw some of this year early on, but for the most part, the Poa annua is probably more so of a problem than I've seen on the rough bluegrass. So we do see a little bit of that.
It usually just comes in the spring and then dies out, and it's gone.
It's an annual.
But
it's
people
considered
are worried
an annual.
about it. So yeah.
So getting to the grass seed, and this is something I wanted to emphasize, is the fact that you'll take a look at our grass seed and you might say, oh, this is expensive. I can go to a box store or go somewhere else and I can get, maybe for 1/10 of the price or even 1/4 of the price. You have to look on the label. You always have to look on the label and make sure there's no noxious weeds, and you have to know what you're trying to plant. I mean, if you look at it and you see in the mixture that it's like a annual ryegrass, you don't want annual ryegrass in your lawn. Number one, it's an ugly grass, and then number two, for the most part, it dies. It's only a year. It's annual. So you really don't want that. So you really have to look at it. And of course, our grass seed, for years we've gone through all the different testings, and we've looked at the different testings. And our grass seed is for this area, and we have it where it's a dollar spot resistant. And anything that you hear where they say, "Oh, you won't get it," it's resistant. Doesn't mean you can't get it, but it's a great seed. And it germinates well and it stands up very well. Anything else?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Nice.
we have the shady, we have extreme shade, we have sunny, and we have blends. So, and this is how to spread it. If you look at the diagram on the bottom, you'll see the middle one as being the perfect way to spread it, and it actually replicates the hot dog buns at Irving's. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you're really interested on how to spread it, just go over to Irving's, get yourself a hot dog, look at the bun, and know that's the way you need to spread your seed.
It's a hands-on example of how thick to spread your seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you spread it too thick, the issue is if you spread it too thick, what ends up happening if it all germinates, it crowds each other, and it'll end up killing each other. They just can't exist when they're really crowded. If it's too thin, then it's going to look thin, and you maybe lost your timing as far as trying to get a good lawn established. So you want to try and be as close as you can to that hot dog bun. So.
And tell them that the chalet people sent you in to see how thick to spread your grass seed.
Use a drop or a rotary spreader, or you can use a hand whirlybird spreader. You're better off using a spreader when you're using a seed or even fertilizers. And if you're using a weed and feed, you definitely don't want to throw that down by hand. You don't want that on your hands. But on your seed, you become much more accurate with a spreader than trying to throw it down by hand. A lot of times by hand, you'll end up with globs of seed in certain areas and no seed in other areas. Supplemental water. This year we really needed the water, that's for sure. But plants need 1 inch of rainfall or the equivalent for supplemental watering every week.
And that's at 75,
75 degrees and
or cooler.
Right. And so every 10 degrees above 75, you want to add a ½ inch of water, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at 95, we should have been getting 2 inches of rain a week,
right.
Or doing our sprinklers at least 3 times a week, and we're just not getting it. It's been really bad.
Yep.
Okay, so then, yeah, oh, there's good.
And this is a way to calibrate it. You know, put your little Dixie cups out there and spread them out. And I would say you do more of an average, but you go closer to the ones that are less. If you put a little bit more, it's not gonna hurt. But the outer area, you want to try and make sure that you're getting as much, or you overlap. You want to make sure you overlap so that you're trying to get your 1 to 2 inches, whatever you're putting down.
And you time how long it takes to get a ½ inch in those cups. And it's different at everybody's house because you have different water pressure and you have different sprinkler heads and different application styles. So measure your own house, and that, calibrating your irrigation system is the term. You sound like you're doing something really official, don't you? You're just measuring how much water your sprinkler system delivers, or you're just your plain old sprinkler. So, and if you know how much is being out there, then you can calculate how much and how often to use it and get enough water. And that's what we just talked about.
Right. There's
Oh, and the importance about seed, keeping it consistently moist.
Seeding is more in the way of the way you keep that moist. It's not necessarily a deep watering. When you're trying to water in your lawn, you want to get, 1 inch of water down into the soil because you're trying to drive it down to the root systems. When you're seeding, you want to keep it moist. So in some cases, you may want to go out there with a light watering wherever it's seeded, and you may have to do it 2-3 times a day, depending on the temperatures. Going into fall, it's less and less, but you still want to make sure, you want to look at it, make sure that it's damp. Sod, you have to water a little bit more. You got to give it a little bit more water because it's got to go through what is still a thatch area and try and keep that moist so that the root systems go down into the soil. And the final mow, generally it's 2 to 3 inches. 3 inches is kind of tall, but 2 inches is generally what is recommended. And it makes for a little bit healthier turf the following spring. So your final mow is important. You want to make sure you do that, that's for sure. If it lays way over, a lot of times that grass will end up breaking down and actually creating more problems for the following year. Sometimes it kills off the existing crowns of the plants.
And this is one of Bill's shade lawns that he won.
National.
They won an award for.
Yeah, national award.
So this is what your lawn should look like.
Yeah, you just try and follow everything you can, and you got to consider every year there's going to be some new challenges, new problems. I mean, we didn't expect the type of heat we had in spring with this summer because it was so much rain and everything. We thought, oh, we're on easy street, and then all of a sudden we got the nasty heat. So you don't know from year to year.
Everybody, we've come right into the end. What I'm going to do is pull up the questions and answers. We're going to pull them over here and answer all of these questions and answers. Okay, here we go. Where do you get a copy of the calendar? Oh, we talked about those. And then thank you. Having this printed would be great. Okay, we'll send that to you. You've got your handout that came with your invitation. So print that up. That's your printed outline. And then Lawrence Parfit, I want to fertilize and aerate. What order should I do them in?
Yeah, you should aerate first and then fertilize.
Very good.
Aerate is over everything. Even if you're going to seed, you aerate and then seed.
And then Susan, when should one aerate and how much time between treating weeds, fertilizing, and overseeding this fall?
Okay, so your aeration, you should be doing the aeration now. Anytime from now until mid-October, you can aerate. As far as the, if you're gonna go after your weeds and then seed, I would say they generally will tell you 30 days, but I would say 20 days between. I would put down probably, I would spray for the weeds and then wait about 20 days and then seed. You'll still be within that time frame. I mean, if you end up spraying your weeds 2 weeks after, if you're going to do it 2 weeks into September, then I would go the opposite way. I would put down my seed and I'd wait until the end of September to spray for the weeds. But right now, I would kill off the weeds, because once you germinate the seed, it won't have competition. Weeds are terrible competition for grass. Weeds win every time, just about.
The next one is Gail Collins. Do I do these 4 steps in order? And that the order on that screen was to fertilize first, then kill the weeds, and then aerate. I like to say that because when you fertilize, then you're revving up the grass plants. You're also revving up the weeds so that they pull the hormone. Weed killers are actually plant hormones. They pull it in faster, and then they die faster, and then you core aerate and then overseed, afterwards. I've heard the benefit of fertilizing before core aeration is that you rev the plants up, and then when you're root pruning by core aerating, they're ready to grow and fill in those roots faster. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, because let's face it, when our lawn care goes out, we may aerate and then a week later we may fertilize, or we may have fertilized, and I don't think there's going to be a drastic difference.
Here's another really good question. Tricia, thank you. Can you use the Espoma lawn food, then the weed and feed, or should you use one or the other? I would use the weed and feed right now.
Right.
And then use the Espoma for the Halloween fertilizer.
Right.
That's your winterizer. Great question, Tricia. Oh, here's another one. When do you use Scott Step 1? And what do you use in place, or can you use in place of Espoma or weed and feed? The Scott Step 1, I recommend that in the spring as as your crabgrass preventer and fertilizer replacement, and it's very, very effective for that. And then your other ones, then the other ones, as we just said. Then is it okay to cover seed with compost instead of topsoil? Great question. It's fine.
Works very well.
It's fine. The most important thing, though, is to keep it consistently moist. That's the make or break. That's the win or lose. If you don't keep it consistently moist, those little baby seedlings get dry once. They're dead. Gone. You got to start over.
And don't go too thick on compost or soil or anything that you're putting on top of it. Sometimes a lot of people like to put down the compost and then they put the seed over it and then they kind of rake it into it. You can try that. My suggestion would be you put your seed down so you get a nice even coverage, and you put that compost down as light as you put. They generally say the thickness of the seed.
Yeah, which is not very thick at all.
Right.
Not very thick at all. Hey, Bill, we did it. We got all the questions, and we had to put our masks back on, everybody, so I hope you can still hear us. And we've come right in at the 11 o'clock. I think it's 11:05 right now. And if you have any other questions, you know that you can always send them to an email address. It's called help. Oh yeah, here I am. It's called help@chaleznursery.com. And you can also email me at jenniferb@chaleznursery.com. And I'm not going to give Bill's address out because he's part-time and semi-retired. But you know that I have a hotline to call Bill if I need to. Okay, everybody. We really. Oh, here's another one from Denny. Hi. It says. Okay, to all panelists. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's hello@chaleznursery.com. Oh, thank you. I said help, didn't I? Ooh, it's hello. Yeah, it's hello@chaleznursery.com. Thank you, Danny. Wow, I love people watching over me. You all have been so wonderful. Yeah, you're so wonderful to attend our webinars. We have to say hi to Carol. Thanks for logging in for us. And you know, come and see us in the store. We have all the products that we talked about, and come to the Plant Information Center. And I'm there every day and to answer all your questions. So thank you all. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Bill. Round of applause for Bill Leuenberger.
Thank you, Jennifer, for helping me on this.
I'm just a techno geek.
Yeah.
I need to put my horn rim glasses on, you guys, because I have turned into a real geek. I really have. I used to just be a horticultural geek. Now I've turned into a techno geek too.
And I'm lucky to be able to turn on my phone. So
hey y'all, thank you so much. We'll see you. We'll see you in the store. Bye bye now. Okay, so here we go. Stop share and end meeting for all.